Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Field Mcconnell in the house again, everybody. So if you have a question for Field, please feel free to raise your hand. And at some point, I will unmute your mic and you can ask Field your question. Or if you cannot speak, please write your question underneath the comment section under his logo on the wall. It says Field McConnell, and I will read those also at some point in this podcast. Also, to everybody, please be careful who you listen to, who you follow, and what you're putting into your mind. It's crazy out there. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of movement, a lot of great things are happening. So please hang on to the positive, no matter how big or small they are. What we saw with this parade on Saturday was huge. A lot of signals, I do believe, to us of kind of what's to come. A lot of comms. A lot of people call them the comms, right? So get excited, everybody. That was absolutely beautiful. That parade on Saturday, very pivotal and a once in a lifetime thing when we are able to have gotten to see that. So that was really huge. And a lot of these people, everybody, they're starting to be exposed, these influencers, podcasters, whatever you want to call them. The more they talk, the more they expose themselves. So we are in the stage of exposure, everybody. This Planeteer guy, Theo, I believe his name is. He's now getting a lot of exposure in the nefarious things that he is tied to. So again, everybody, like I say, pay attention to Trump and what he is doing, what he is saying, who he's putting out there in the forefront, because eventually you're going to start hearing. And if you do your research, just like the Stargate, three individuals that he pulled up and talked to in the beginning of his presidency, if you do some research on those guys, you will find some nefarious things tied to them as well. So it's very, very interesting, very exciting. So these are the kind of things I'm telling you to hang on to and stay out of the noise, the negative BS, because there's a lot of negative going on out there. Also, too, everybody, we are being listened to in over 100 countries, and we are making a lot of great positive noise. So please, if you come into this podcast late, or if you want to share it with friends and family, please follow the podcast host on any of the podcast hosts or the social medias. And the podcast hosts are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. Social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny_Dreed X, at J Dreed Rumble, at J Dreed True Social, at J Dreed Instagram, The Revival of America right here on Telegram, The Revival of America on YouTube, and last but certainly not least, at the official J Dreed over on TikTok. I'm doing better putting up little videos for you guys over there in the show lineup, so check that out. Because again, like I said, they're just little video clips, guys, and I put everything everywhere. So if you don't have a TikTok, that's fine, but you won't be able to probably look at them if you don't have a TikTok. So I am getting all of my social media is verified, so you guys know those are my legitimate accounts, because unfortunately there are the imposters out there, right? So all of them are verified except YouTube, TikTok, and True Social. Still waiting for those. But these ones that I just gave you are my legitimate accounts. So please follow any and all of those, as well as the podcast host. And then also too, if you guys get a random text saying they are me, asking if you're ready for the scare event, financials, crypto, all that other stuff, no, that is not me. I will not personally reach out to you. If you email me, I will respond. If you DM me, I will respond. Give me a minute, everybody, because I've got a day gig, and a lot of times it takes me a little bit, because I do get a lot of DMs and emails on a daily basis to go through all of them. So, but if somebody just reaches out to you and asks if you're ready for the scare event, that's not me. Block, report them. Let me know so I can make sure they're not here in the channel. Also, to everybody, I have created a new submission email for those of you that want to tell your story or your journeys. I highly encourage you to do it. Please send me a little synopsis of your story, because I will read through them and then contact you guys, because unfortunately we do have those imposters and those people that just want to get on the podcast and make up some kind of BS stories, which is not cool, because there's a lot of people out there that have had a lot of great stories to tell, and for people to take that away from them is just not cool. So please email me at troasubmissions@yahoo.com, and that's troasubmissions@yahoo.com. These are just for the stories and the journeys that you want to share on the podcast, so keep it to that. If you guys need to email me something, please email me at therevivalofamerica@yahoo.com. That is my personal email. And then the submissions, I'm just keeping straight up for the stories that people want to share on the podcast. And everybody, for those of you that send in the submissions, it's going to be you, your voice, your story that's going to tell the story, right? On the podcast, not me. I think people send me in their stories thinking that I'm going to share their story, my voice. No, it's important. And I highly encourage all of you guys, if you have something like that, to use your voice because it's your voice, your story that's going to help shape this new world that we're coming into, everybody. So remember that your voice matters. And last but certainly not least, everybody, go to the revivalofamerica.com, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. It is free. You'll get the weekly updates on the show lineup with the guests, the times, and then also we put the podcast over there so you'll get the latest updates on the new podcasts that come out. So with that, everybody, Field is in the house. He typically gives us 90 minutes of his time. So I'm thinking we're going to be talking a little bit about the Oklahoma bombings today, and then we can also talk about, what we witnessed over the weekend with the parade and how these protests. So I'm kind of curious to see if any of you saw any of those. I saw a lot of advertisements of where they were going to be here in the Phoenix, well, Arizona in general area. So I'm just curious. I don't think it wound up turning out like they thought it was going to be as bad. But just remember, everybody. Trump is 10 steps ahead of everybody, and it was absolutely beautiful what we saw on Saturday. So, with that, I'd like to welcome Field. How are you, Field?
Well, I'm old. How are you today, Jenny?
I'm doing great. Just back to the old grind. Everybody, we are back to our weekly schedule of Field on Mondays. John will be on here at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So he's back here on Mondays again. And then, of course, Derek Johnson, he's every 2 weeks. So he'll be back, or he'll be on tonight at 6:30 p.m. So yeah, we're back to the regular scheduled podcast, Field. Does that feel better for you? I know we've been
Oh
switching
no,
you switching you around a little bit.
I like to be switched. By the way, that's a lesbian term. If I don't know if you know any lesbians, I don't. The three lesbians that I was aware of, Janet Reno, my sister, and Hillary Clinton, I think they've already been taken care of. But that is a lesbian term. And how do I know that? Gee, I don't know. Somebody told me and they explained it to me. But to me, it's rather sickening. So I'd rather just uh, either talk about the Murrah building. Oh, and uh, Jenny, may I have your permission to titillate your listeners?
Absolutely. I'm sure they would love that. Go for it. Let her rip, Potato Chip.
Okay, here it comes, my lady. Um, the Alfred P. Murrah building was named after a judge. Okay, that was stupid. The judges, prior to constitutional law, were the biggest enemies of America. But what I would like to titillate your listener with at the end of this show, I will name the two most lethal domestic terrorists, and neither one of them is Timothy McVeigh, and neither one of them is the man whose surname is Nichols. Uh, but I will name them both, and they share the same last name. That's hint number one. But I'm going to hold everybody. This will keep your, first of all, you don't need any help from me keeping your chat room stuffed because people I see every week, there's more people in your chat room. And that makes me very happy because I'm dedicated to your success. And and I think that by titillating your chat room today, I've already said that in my estimation, and my information is generally quite accurate, the two biggest domestic terrorists in the history of the United States of America share the same last name. But over to you. Do you want me to go into the Murrah building, or would you just like to open it up for Q&A? It doesn't matter to me, Jenny, whatever you like.
Well, it's up to kind of up to you, Field, because I know we were talking about the Waco massacre on Friday. I would say let's go into the Oklahoma bombing because they kind of they tied kind of together, and then we can go into the Q&As, and I'm sure other people have different questions for you, like maybe about the parade and the stuff that we're seeing transpire right as we speak. So yeah, go ahead and let's talk about the Murrah building.
Okay. Well, as I just mentioned a couple seconds ago, the Murrah building in Oklahoma City was named after I think he was a federal judge. He could have been a state judge. I don't really care because I don't like judges. I've been mistreated by a judge who is not going to like how I settle the score. His name is Dan Casey in the 17th District of Florida. And he not only entertained a non due process legal claim against me, which was never proven to be true. And even though that I was going to be rather Marine-like and say that weak dick judge, but I don't want to be cited for libel, even if I do tell the truth, because it's happened before. So I'll just say that lovely judge, Dan Casey, hope he's listening. Yeah, what they did to me, and it doesn't matter to me. I could care less what they do to me because I'm just me. And when I'm done being me, I get to go to heaven and see my wife. But in the meantime, I have to stay down here on earth and, do what I do. And what Marines do is dominate or die. And I'm not dead yet. So I guess anybody that's good at the English language could conclude that maybe I'm dominating something. And I am. I'm dominating the exposure of traitors and child traffickers. And notice I did not mention the name Mitch McConnell. That sissy was both a traitor, and if he didn't traffic children, he really wasn't paying attention to his pocketbook because most of Congress, which includes the Senate, they were involved in child trafficking. And is that a libel issue? No, I don't think so. I think libel can only be uh, successfully addressed in court if the alleged injured parties are guilty, or rather innocent. And that was a Freudian slip there. Uh, Mitch McConnell's not innocent of anything other than looking like a turtle. And even turtles are smart enough to pull their heads into their shell to protect themselves when they're being threatened by a superior force. So one McConnell versus another McConnell is never probably an equal battle, but in this case, it's very disequal because Mitch McConnell was kicked out of the Army over homosexual issues. He was married. I don't know if he's still married. I bet she got rid of him by now. But to Elaine Chao, who is the daughter of a Chinese billionaire who made his money hauling drugs across oceans. And I'm just going to titillate your listeners. If anybody is a researcher and has any idea of what percentage of fentanyl comes into the United States, I'd love to know what percentage of it comes from China. So that's an assignment for researchers. But I'm not a researcher. I'm just, I do my own thing. And, I'm very committed to what I do. And just for the church crowd, let me remind you of how I was commissioned to do this. It's written in the New Testament in Ephesians 5:11, and it's written in the Old Testament in Psalm 94:16. But let me just address some of the salient points. And I don't know what salient means because I'm not an academic, nor do I respect them. There's exceptions, of course. I haven't found one yet, but I'm sure they exist. What happened to the Oklahoma building? And by the way, it is alleged to be the greatest example of domestic terrorism in the United States history. That is not true. At the end of this podcast, I will explain the correction to that misstatement. The Murrah building was allegedly a domestic attack, which it was, but it wasn't by Timothy McVeigh or by the man with the surname Nichols. It was by a married couple, and it's an arranged marriage. And I'm not even sure if they're different genders, but Bill and Hillary Clinton. That's who did it. And they were working in concert with my sister, Christine Marcy, and the director of the Justice Department back then, Janet Reno, and yet they blamed it on a couple of incompetents. And I didn't say incontinence. That's what Dan Casey, Bill Clinton, and others are experiencing right now as they wonder who's going to be exposed next in this Jenny's podcast. And just to protect Jenny, I want to let everyone know that she never has any idea what I'm going to say. And so if somebody wants to complain about this content today, my name is Field, Field, Mcconnell. And if you want to have your ass handed to you, just go ahead and contact me and I'll take care of the rest. Okay, the Alpha P, did that just cause you to crack up, Jenny?
I was just gonna say, Phil, I love you. Yeah, I'm over here laughing. You're such a sweetheart. Thank you.
Oh, I'm a sweetheart. In fact, much of my morning this morning has been involving a humanitarian interest of mine. And when John Baxter is on your show today, I encourage him to get my phone number from you, and maybe he can give me a call because I'd like to schedule an appointment for somebody that I'm a humanitarian caregiver to. And
Oh,
I
okay.
give you the yeah. And by the way, Jenny, no secrets with me, but there's a limit to how much I will blab on a radio show going to 100 countries with what I would now declare is the world's most lethal chat room. I used to say that about Abel Danger, and just over this past weekend, I got put in touch with a chat room that's called TCC Chat Room. That stands for the Children's Crusade, powered by Abel Danger. Don't worry, I'm not leaving you, Jenny. I will never leave you or forsake you uh, because I love your audience and I love the research abilities of some of the people that wish to become greater contributors to yours. And one of them, and this is a secret agent name, but one of them, and you've met her online, but you don't know her secret agent name, but it's Agent Ski Patrol. And I'll explain that when we're not on a public podcast. So, but now that we're going back to being public, the Alpha P Murrah Federal Building was the United States federal government complex, and it housed a whole bunch of different agencies, mostly federal, perhaps some state, but it was demolished, I think, pretty close to the second anniversary of the Waco massacre, and that involved Hillary Clinton, my own sister, and Janet Reno also. So these people don't learn fast. I would say the one that learns the slowest is my own sister. In January of 2024, she called me and asked me to consider reconciling with her. And I probably said this on your podcast before, but my response was, no, thank you. I'm not going to reconcile with an international child trafficker and a traitor who has disrespected my mother, which is your mother, to my sister, I said that, and my father, which is your father, and myself. And you've been very disrespectful to all three of us. And so here's your answer. And then my phone went clunk. And I believe she was probably calling me from Gitmo or one of the other places where tribunals are backed up literally for years. But I think she was trying to cause me to say on a recorded line or maybe a line that was um, in the vicinity of two or three tribunal attorneys or judges or both. And she wanted to show that she could uh, twist me, mentally. And that's impossible. Even though I won a twist contest in 1961, I'm pretty easy to twist, and I'm nearly impossible to infiltrate. I've had two Mossad agents in my house on two different occasions, one-on-one, where I believe they were trying to get some intellectual property of how I operate. And when they left and I greeted them and walked them to their car, they didn't have anything they didn't have when they came in, including they didn't have legitimacy, they didn't have honor, they didn't have respect. And I don't give a rat's ass if they're from Mossad or not. Mossad doesn't control my life. Jesus Christ does. And if people don't understand that, the Mossad people can kiss my rosy red rectum. And notice, because I'm being courteous, Jenny, I didn't say my ass. But anyway, that that building, Alfred P. Murrah building, in honor of a judge, there's problem number one. It was built, actually, it was built who knows when, I think 1977 maybe. Um, I knew that when I studied this morning, but I've been busy on my humanitarian project, and that's where Dr. Baxter comes in. I don't know if he calls himself a doctor, but I do, because he heals people, including, if I'm not mistaken, your own father, Jenny. Uh, but saying that Timothy McVeigh did this is a bunch of baloney. And the Nichols man, his name's Terry Nichols, and they were patsies. And so often, some of our alleged biggest attacks, for instance, 9/11, they involve patsies. And in the case of 9/11, don't worry, I'm not changing the context. I'm just showing that these people are a bunch of dumb fuckers. Uh, they blamed the 9/11 attacks on Muslims. Impossible. And I just saw a critical piece of literature that came from a guy that I know. His name's Dan Hanley, and he just published a piece in the last 10 days that it was impossible for the Muslims to have done the attack of 9/11. And the reason it's impossible is because they didn't even know what technology was being deployed, which would prevent the Muslims from taking control of the aircraft. And I knew it on the morning of 9/11, and before noon on 9/11, I published it on the internet. But the technology is called the Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot, which is a misnomer. And I didn't say Miss Boner. I mean, that would be disrespectful to whoever the miss was. But the the morning of 9/11, what I witnessed when I watched the second flying vehicle, whether it was CGI or video, doesn't matter to me. The people implicated themselves because the flying vehicle or the CGI vehicle did not make any check turns as it turned towards its final attack azimuth on the second of the two twin towers. By the way, when I say Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, in an interesting twist, and this will make some cowardly females get their panties in a twist, which is a term in England, and I think most Americans can understand it. The CEO of GE, General Electric, had $275 million worth of life insurance on his head on the morning of 9/11. And the reason he needed so much life insurance is because when I get finished exposing the BUAP, his ass will be grass, and his name is Jeffrey Immelt, Immelt. And so it's not Boeing that I'm attacking, it's GE, because they provided a contract piece of equipment to Boeing, and Boeing started putting it in all their new airliners in 1995, according to my understanding, which is enough to end any speculation about who did what on 9/11. But what I'm supposed to be talking about today is who did what in the Murrah building. So I'll get back to that. I wanted to, give a little heat to the Jeffrey Immelt camp and General Electric, which interestingly enough changed their name from General Electric to something else post 9/11. That's not good enough, Jeffrey. You are in the headlights like a deer, probably a female deer in your case. Uh, Back to the Alpha P Murrah thing. A couple things they had that were linking them to the Branch Davidian compound is the perpetrators, Hillary Clinton, my own sister Christine Marcy, and Attorney General Janet Reno. And also in both attacks, they killed in the Branch Davidian attack, they killed between 20 and 28 children. And you can find out who is lying when you just research. And I'm not a researcher, I'm just a Marine. And Marines dominate or die, and I'm dominating this. And I haven't died yet, so kiss my ass if somebody wants me to be dead. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head how many kids were killed in the attack on the Murrah building, which was done by a pair of people with the same surname. I'll get to that before Jenny tells me to take a break, or take a big break like the show's over. But
You're good.
I don't like. Oh, thank you very much, and you're wonderful. Thanks for having me on your show. Do I respect you? Yes, immensely. Is that what I respect about this show only? Nope. I also respect your chat room. I think that maybe this is the current world's most lethal chat room, and that couldn't happen if you didn't allow it to happen. So I'm trying to recall how many kids were killed in the Murrah building, and I know it was more than 28. And anybody that wants to Google that, you can find it probably before I can find it because I'm busy talking. Like I talk way too much. I mean, that's what the defendants of 9/11 are going to say. In fact, one of the defendants of 9/11 who's been dealt with is my own sister. And when I was in Kazakhstan in the time frame 2007 to 2009, my own sister referred to me as a blabbermouth. Well, my own sister is probably rolling over in hell, wishing that I would not be a blabbermouth anymore, but I am. And I'm going to continue. And to titillate your audience, Jenny, I'm going to tell them who the two guys are with the same surname. And if anybody wants to guess, I guess they could make a statement or they could wait for questions and answers and state their opinion. And these people are so unmasked. In other words, the people that really were behind the attack of 9/11 had money. They had a financial motive, and they had no morality. And I'm going to expose their candy asses. I don't like people that kill children. And Timothy McVeigh, who is alleged to have done it with a Ryder truck filled with nano something or other fertilizer and a bunch of diesel fuel, and they exploded it, and it took out about 20% maybe of the Murrah building, but it killed a whole lot of people. So much so that the liars in the Department of Justice, pardon my redundancy, stick it up your ass, DOJ, not the current DOJ. I'm talking about the DOJ that existed from when the United Kingdom took over America as a colony in 1871. And if anybody thinks that's a bullshit argument, just Google the Organic Act of 1871. The president at that time was Ulysses S. Grant. I would say that he's more likely useless S. Grant, but he's been dead for a while, so let's give him exactly what he deserves, which is exposure. And from the Organic Act of 1871 until earlier this year, 2025, we, the United States of America, which should be a beacon of hope and light to the world, which it is now, but only because we got rid of it's called Admiralty or Maritime Law, which means that for that period from 1871 to early 2025, we in the United States were considered a colony of England. Well, the English people, even though they're a bunch of inbred bastards, and I'm not casting any, disrespect onto other bastards. A bastard is simply somebody of unknown parentage, and many of the fake royals, and I think all the royals are fake, but I'm trying to enlighten the rest of the world. Why the fake royals have been doing all this skullduggery against the people of the world, and most notably, the children of the world. And on a brighter note, I do know the name of a Canadian artist who has done a series of pastels called The Children of the World. And when the Children's Crusade uh, assembles for its second ever conference, which will occur at a certain hotel it's just maybe a 10-minute van ride from DFW Airport to the hotel. And I don't know when it's going to be, but I do know that I couldn't bring back the Children's Crusade unless I had a lady to stand beside me. Otherwise, I just look like some other egotistical pedophile. Uh, and I'm going to eliminate two of them at the end of this show because these guys think, and there's girls that are pedophiles too, which is really sickening to me. I didn't want to believe it at first until I realized one of them was my own sister. But anyway, all of us have to update our thinking. And I'm still trying to figure out how many children were killed in the Murrah building, which was premeditated. And in the phony baloney trial of Timothy McVeigh, he had said that he would not have blown up the building if he would have known that there was a children's kindergarten class in there. But that's a bold-faced lie because he knew there was a kindergarten in that building because he took a tour of the building in the run-up to the demolition, and he would have seen the kindergarten in there. But see, it's not Timothy McVeigh that's lying. It's the United States Department of Justice under Bill Clinton and Janet Reno that's lying. The only problem is I've been monitoring those two dimwits for quite a while, let's say roughly 24 years. And, I think I've got the goods on them. Now, can I bring that to a judge or a court case? Well, strangely enough, I think I can. I've got a legal expert, and I'm talking about the real legal constitutional law that's coming to visit me in the next week or 10 days. And he, she, but not it. This is either a he or a she. I don't deal with its. But this person has prevailed in courts of law, even when they were maritime or admiralty courts. And it's going to be much easier for the truth to be heard and remedied now that we are in constitutional law. And people might wonder when we were put into constitutional law. Well, to many people, it looks like we were put into that when they had the parade in Washington, D.C. On Donald Trump's birthday, June 14th, which is also Flag Day. And that may be accurate. It could also be a little bit of finesse, because I think we were put into constitutional law before that. But, I'm just one pain in the ass to bad people. And what's a bad person in my estimation? First of all, let me tell you what a good person is. Anybody who abides by the law and abides by God's law, no matter what country they're in, that's the good people. The bad people are an extreme minority. They don't have any regard for the laws, whether they're God's laws or the laws of the country that they're trying to undermine. And anybody thinking of undermining America, think again, because there's a big brother out there with a show stick. Anybody know what a show stick is? Yes, you're right. It's the stick that somebody that's showing cattle uses to move their cattle around the show ring. And they're very light on their touch because that encourages the bovine, which outweighs most of us humans by a factor of 6 or 8. If they're gentle with their show stick, directing the course of the cattle, then the cattle don't object and attack the person holding the stick. So that's something that these people that have attacked America uh, obviously didn't understand. And so, in my context, I'm sticking the stick right up their ass. And well, let's start with whoever did the Murrah building, whoever did Waco. And for your reference, um, Janet Reno was the AG. My sister, Christine Marcy, was working for the DOJ. Hillary Clinton was working for the devil. And somebody could save me a little research. And I believe that Bill Clinton was the president during that time frame. And I know that he went to Oklahoma City for the 30th anniversary of the demolition of the Alfred P. Murrah building. And I think that his motive for going there was try to distance himself from the demolition, which means the attack. And you can't do that, Willie boy. Uh, and I don't know if anybody knows who the biological sperm donor was for Bill Clinton, but the man was not named Clinton, and he was the governor of Arkansas in 1947. And I will leave it at that. And now I'll still reach out and see if Jenny, do you know if anybody in your chat room might know the number of children murdered? Yes, murdered, premeditated murder, because when Hillary Clinton planned the attack to protect herself from an upcoming legal case about her relationship to whitewater banking BS in Arkansas, she had a motive to do this. Her claimed husband, and I don't think they were husband and wife in reality. The reason I say that is because they allegedly have a daughter named Chelsea Clinton, but Chelsea's biological sperm donor was Webster Hubbell. And if Webster Hubbell doesn't like that, well, he can get in line with the other 37,214 people lined up in Plum City to kiss my ass.
Real
The
quickly,
truth is
Phil.
the truth.
Real quickly, Phil. I'm going to
Yep.
tell you real quickly. 19 children were harmed in that bombing.
Thank you. I was hoping somebody would, I'm just sort of doing stream of consciousness, as I always do. That's why I have all these run-on sentences. But so what we have there is 19 more. And in the previous attack at Waco, which is called the Branch Davidian massacre, there were 20 to 28. So at the very minimum, 19 and 20 is 39 kids were killed by a trio of perverts, one my own sister, one Hillary Clinton, and one Janet Reno. So how are we doing for time? And I'm going to not just depend on you. I'm going to look at my clock. Yeah, we're 37 minutes into this. Would you like to go to questions and answers now, knowing that at the end of this podcast, I'm going to tell you the two people who are most responsible for 9/11, which was and is the greatest domestic attack in the United States in the history of the United States. Over to you, Jenny.
Yeah, you're good on time. We got the full 90 minutes today. So, yeah, family, everybody's gone home. So we're good. So, real quickly, so everybody, there was a total of 851 people that were either injured or killed in the direct bombings over there in Oklahoma City, and 19 of them were children. So that's a big number, 851 people. So, yeah, we can go into Q&A, everybody. If you guys have a question for Field, please raise your hand. I will unmute your mic and you can ask Field your question. Or if you can't speak, please write it underneath his logo on the wall. It says Field Mcconnell, and I will read those as well. So I did unmute your mic, Chance. If you want to ask Field your question, go ahead. Go ahead, Chance. Your mic is unmuted. Okay, everybody, if you guys request a mic and I mute it, I know sometimes people hit it on accident, but just be mindful. We have typically 90 minutes we do, and I want to be respectful of Field's time. So I'm going to go into some questions here on the wall. So Chance did not respond. So here's a question for you from Debbie Lou Field. It says, I've been to the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. I was very impressed, but now that I know some of the truth, will the memorial need to be redone or will it still stand as is? Thank you, Field and Jenny, for all you do.
Well, that's a very good question, and I can't address it other than logically. But why would you want to change a memorial, but you can change what's written at the memorial to make it more truthful? And that's why I've titillated your crowd today by saying at the end of this podcast, I will make 9/11 the greatest terror act in America ever. That was because of the architects of the attack, and they will be named, and they both share a surname. Um, they can run, they can hide, they can pretend, they can pee in their pants, but they can't get away because the truth is going to set us free, not them free. And I look forward to exposing those names. And, some of the people in the chat room probably already know those names. They certainly know the names, but they may never have heard anybody say on a broadcast at the, with the penalty of perjury or the penalty of death because the rat bastards don't like being exposed. Well, I'm an exposure artist and I'll expose them. And if they don't like that, they can kiss my ass. Over to you, Jenny, for the next question, maybe.
Thank you, Field. All right, everybody. I'm going to encourage you guys to raise your hand and ask your questions. Field's here, so this is what we do every week. All right, here's another one. Says Aaron SB Netherland. Question: would Field elaborate on the JD character, please? I couldn't find it on your wall or a repost. It would be amazeballs. Okay, so they want you to elaborate a little bit more on the JD Vance, I'm assuming, character.
Yeah, well, number one, if J.D. Vance can produce a birth certificate with the name J.D. Vance, I would never mention his name again. But sadly for him, his name is not J.D. Vance. And I don't like to prognosticate or predict or offer an opinion, but I think what would be a rightful disposition of the J.D. Vance charade would be if Donald Trump might consider replacing him with a legitimate person whose name is John F. Kennedy Jr. And the stroke of genius, if that were to be done, it would take care of the charlatan J.D. Vance, who claims that he changed his name 3 times, and the third time it was because he got married. Well, he just fingered himself, pardon the expression, because he got married in 2014, but he changed his name to J.D. Vance in 2013. So at the end of the day, that guy's full of shit. And if a vice president or maybe a charlatan vice president wants to meet me in a courtroom, now that we're in constitutional court, I'd be willing to match wits with him in front of a constitutional judge if I could find a constitutional attorney that has the nerve to stand by me. And as I said maybe 20 minutes ago, I have a brilliant legal mind coming to visit me in Plum City, Wisconsin, sometime in the next 10 days. And that party is bringing basically reams of documents that came out of the Pierce County Courthouse. And I think I've explained that on one of your podcasts before, Jenny, but back when my wife Denise was alive, this legal expert and my wife went to the Pierce County Clerk of Court and asked to be able to see the paperwork on any piece of paper in the courthouse that had my name, Field Mcconnell, on it. And this legal expert and my wife were given quite a lot of documents because I've been in and out of that courthouse, never guilty of anything, but never declared innocent of anything. And so that'll get remedied. No, where was I going with that? Yeah, what was the question again? The question that you most recently asked me, Jenny? Could you refresh my memory, please?
Yeah, they just wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on the JD Vance. You've talked about it several times about him not being who he says he is. The character, basically, of
No.
JD Vance.
Yeah, there is a character. It's fiction character. He was born in Middleton, Ohio, I believe. He went to Yale University. Um, he may or may not have been a member of the Skull and Bones, and I think he was not, but he would be influenced by them because they're a bunch of liars that are, bunch of liars is rather vague. How about George H.W. Bush and John Kerry, and maybe we'd have to research this, but G.W. Bush. But there's a bunch of skullduggerous people that have gone to Yale and been in Skull and Bones, never realizing that those records of their participation would put them right in the spotlight when honest people in a constitutional court demand their head on a plate. And that sounds like a threat. No, I don't mean I want to put them to sleep, not dead. I just want to bore them or maybe scare them until their head falls asleep on a plate, and they don't sleep very well, so they wake up with spaghetti all over their right ear. And you're going to have something else that looks like spaghetti sauce coming out of your head when you are held accountable in a tribunal. And the tribunals are so many, maybe I should say numerous, that Guantanamo, which has been recently increased in capacity to 9,000 visitors awaiting their death, but there's also tribunals on Diego Garcia and Antarctica and Andrews Joint Forces Base in Clinton, there's a hint, Maryland, and Greenland. And in Greenland, people say, oh, I don't think there's any tribunals there because I don't see any buildings big enough. Well, maybe you haven't looked underground. Greenland is really cold, and they have very large facilities underground for whatever purpose they were intended. Some have been converted to tribunals at this point. Um, so anyway, if I was J.D. Vance, I would fake a head cold and say I'd like to be dismissed as vice president before the going gets tough. Well, I think it's a little bit too late for you, whoever you are. And I do know your name, and I've posted it right here on Jenny's wall, but that was a long time ago. Uh, and it may not be on Jenny's wall, but at the end of this show, I can I can mention another wall that it could be posted to. But I think Jenny's is the best place because I think Jenny has some of the best guests, and not me. I mean, I'm a lethal exposure artist. There's more erudite guests coming on that are more positive. One of them is coming right behind this show, and his name is John Baxter, and he has a private med bed. And if anybody wants to go to Intel Diner Chronicles for today's date, which I think is the 16th of June, I know it's Monday. Uh, there's a lot of very encouraging press or ink regarding med beds because they've already been deployed east and west, north and south across the United States. But it's also been announced that they're deployed in the United Kingdom, and they're going to be deployed around the world in the interest of humanitarian issues of remedying medical problems that have been caused by the big pharma. And big pharma is already under attack from Donald Trump. And what type of an attack? Well, for now, it's just a financial attack. He's capping the cost of medicine that ostensibly can help people overcome medical issues. And that's why I've asked Jenny to let Dr. Baxter, that's what I call him. He might be just a Mr. Baxter, but he's saving uh, patients one at a time. And I've got a patient that I would like to get into his schedule who just found out this morning that that patient has a heart issue. And I think it's called, it's basically an irregular heartbeat. And I don't know if it's called fibrillation or what it's called. I'm not a doctor, although when I was an airline pilot, I used to play a doctor on layovers, but that's a whole nother issue. And it's one that I will expose in one of my upcoming books. One of my upcoming books could be, get ready to giggle, Jenny. It dawned on me that the old cliche that says the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, what happens if the people that publish one of my upcoming books, they forget to put the space between pen and is? And then the title would be The Penis Mightier Than Sword. And I just think that's a very stimulating title, but it may never be printed. It might. But, you know, if it gets printed, some people are going to be exposed in a way they thought they never would be. And that's why I enjoy being an exposure artist. I've helped accelerate the demise of George H.W. Bush. I helped accelerate the demise of John McCain. I'm confident I accelerated the demise of Hillary Rodhog, oh, excuse me, Rodham. No, she's more of a roadhog. We'll go back to that. Hillary Rodhog Clinton, and who's not really a Clinton, by the way. Uh, and who else did I finger? Oh, yes, my sister, Christine Marcy. And she called me in January of 24 and wanted to reconcile, and I hung up. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Field. All right, we've got a few questions here. So I'm going to call on a couple people here that I've unmuted your mics, and then I have some that I'll read on the back side. So let's see. Linda Hendrickson, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question.
Hi guys, I have two questions. Phil, do you think we're gonna see another attack of some sort on U.S. soil with all the exposure that's out there?
No, I don't think so. But see, that's an opinion.
Right.
That doesn't mean I know anything, because I don't. I'll tell you right now, I do not know. But if there was a plan to attack on American soil, I believe I would know. And one of the reasons I say that is most people listening to this show know that Donald Trump has a very loyal group of military white hats. And I'd be very surprised if one or more of the white hats are not listening to this podcast, because I slip them information that I don't wish to use via email or text. It's words that I put together that pass information in sort of a coded um, method. So, no, I don't think there'll be another attack. And if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong in saying this. Nobody's going to attack America without the American military and political um, apparatus knowing who did it. And payback, well, I'm going to choose my words and try to be polite to ladies, but in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, there was an expression, pardon my voice, that payback is an MF. And MF does not stand for Field Mcconnell. That would be FM. But yeah, no, I don't think there'll be an attack. I think we are under
What
attack
I can say to that,
by the
Linda.
people. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that Field, this is Jenny. I was just going to respond to kind of add to what you're saying. We've heard a lot of times, with from Juan or, some other people that are talking about, if it's the illusion that it's going to look like the US is going to be under attack, so that scare event, right? But
Yeah.
will it actually
Yeah.
happen? So I think because we still need to wake up so many people out there, that scare event is necessary, and it will look like it's going to happen, but it won't necessarily happen. So that's what I'm getting from a lot of what people are saying. And I think I just heard Phil say, yeah. So if I'm incorrect in saying that, I know a lot of people have said that, but what are your thoughts on that, Field, the illusion of it?
I think that's absolutely right. So let's take your name out of the equation. So you can't be I think it's called retribution. Um, let's use my name. Let's say that I think it's an illusion and it's for fear mongering. And, Americans are getting less and less prone to being fear porn uh, people. No, and I'll tell you, the easiest way to get that fear out of your mind is to turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face. Yeah, and that song, by the way, I can't sing, but that song is called Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. There's our leader right there. And he doesn't have to come down to earth because we know where to call upon him, and that's on our knees. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Field. Go ahead, Linda. I think you had one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think the Minnesota shooting is a psyop?
Which Minnesota shooting are you referring to?
The one that was Friday night, Saturday morning with the where they killed a rapper, senator. There was two shootings, and it was Bachelor, believe the name was. I don't know if I'm saying that shooter's name right, but
Yeah. So basically, Field, it was two politicians that got shot. So one of the gals, I think it was Horton Hoffman, something like that. She voted no, I think, on giving illegals Medicare or something, free Medicare. And then she was shot the next morning, her and her husband. And then the other senator, I can't remember his name, he and his wife were shot. Yeah, by I'm looking for it right now, guys.
Boetcher. I
There
believe.
you go. That guy.
Well,
So, and remember,
could
Field
the
doesn't
one?
watch the TV, so he may not be abreast to what's going on right there.
Oh, sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't watched TV. because I never found the truth on TV. But here's some truth. I was released from custody in Florida, having been through a little bit of harassment, starting on November 4th of 2019 and ending on the 15th of January of 2021, right after my wife, Denise Irene Clark, died of thyroid cancer on December 30th. And then the candy ass judge in Florida, notice I didn't say Dan Casey, that would be disrespectful. So all I said was a candy ass judge. Now, I guess that would apply to most of the judges because down there in 2019, we were still under the Organic Act of 1871. So let's see, 1871 until 2025 is 129 plus 25, 154 years. And how come it's taken 154 years for some people in America to understand that we were a colony of England for all of that time? And thank God, literally, I, Field McConnell, thank God that he positioned Donald John Trump to come and save America, and in doing so, position humanitarian financial assistance to save the entire globe, at least 209 nations. And I sound political? No, I'm not. I'm not political. It was just 10 or 15 minutes ago that I said that I think that John F. Kennedy Jr. would be a very reasonable replacement for J.D. Vance if J.D. Vance cannot produce a birth certificate with the name J.D. Vance on it, which he cannot. Over to you, Jenny, and thank you for those lovely questions, LH.
Thank you. Love it.
All right, Ms. Cal, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi. You have told us in the past, Field, that Melania is of the Romanov family, the monarchy over there. Last night, I was listening to another show, and he mentioned that she has been, since a little girl, been raised to do the work that she's doing, and she's brilliantly smart. My question is, with Donald Trump standing up at the parade the other day, and him specifically saluting, he saluted others, but specifically saluting General Patton, and we've heard that he might be General Patton's son. I mean, is there a connection there that maybe since he was a little boy, he too, as well as Melania, have been raised to do this work they're doing today?
Well, real quickly, Field, before you answer that, Cal, Field, not Field, but Donald Trump has said many times he has been waiting for this moment his entire life. So I think that speaks volumes. Go ahead, Field.
Yeah, I agree. And I choose to believe his biological sperm donor was George Patton. Let's go back to Melania. The evil bastards that killed her mother, father, and 5 siblings, they were so they were so evil, no other word would suffice, that of the 7 children, of which Melania is one of 2 survivors, the people not only killed the 5 children and both parents, but then they threw a bunch of either gasoline or diesel on their bodies, tossed a match in, so they burned them beyond recognition. If people, including those rat bastards in England, which are long since dead, that's a new version of LSD. And, you know, some of the people I go after are LSD victims, long since dead. Hillary Roadhog comes to mind. But I think that Melania is brilliant. Somebody can probably say how many languages she can speak, and yet so many Americans can't even speak English, which is a sad indictment on America. But of course, America's been watered down by our Congress and our senator who've opened the floodgates to illegals coming into our country. And you can see what illegals are doing to California and trying to do to other states, perhaps Texas. They're not going to get it done because neither Donald Trump nor God is going to remain silent and let this take place. Because right now we're on the cusp, or maybe we're actually in progress on the global financial reset, which is going to provide abundant cash to everybody in the world. And I majored in economics in college, so I know that there's some people out there that have an economic background who might say, if you provide free cash around the globe, you're going to cause inflation. Well, if that was true, which I believe it's not, God wouldn't be doing what he's doing, and Trump wouldn't be rubber stamping what God is doing. I think Donald Trump and Melania are two people chosen by God to rise up from not necessarily clear backgrounds, but rise up anyway, because Melania and Donald Trump have a son who's rather tall, and he was in a college class in Oregon several months ago, and some very extremely liberal female professor started talking about Melania Trump in unflattering terms. And what's his name? Don't tell me I can do it. Oh, yes, Barron. Barron Trump raised his hand and stood up, all 6'9" of them, and said, "The only reason I'm raising my hand, Professor, is because you've just offended my mother. I am Melania Trump's son, and what you just said is false." And then he sat down. And a day later, or maybe it was a week later, it wasn't more than a week and it wasn't less than a day, that same liberal witch, not all witches are females, some are warlocks. But anyway, in this case, the women that wanted to vilify Melania, well, how are you going to vilify somebody that God has chosen, especially when her 19-year-old, roughly, son named Barron stands up and looks you eyeball to eyeball from a distance of maybe 50 feet and calls you a liar? Well, that female apologized to Barron and to Melania within a week. And, there's a new sheriff in town, and the new sheriff might be Donald Trump, or it might be God himself who manipulates Donald Trump and others, whether they're Christian soldiers or Christian Marines or Christian ladies. We Christians are not going to, we're not going to fall victim to these charades and these liars anymore. We're rising up, and God and Jesus and Trump and Melania are causing us to rise up, and we are a force that cannot be dealt with. And sadly for the victims, we're going to deal justice to them. And it's long overdue. And that's not an apology by me. It's an acknowledgement by me. Maybe we should have done this a long time ago, but all of us had to wait until God gave the go signal, or if you like the other, the other way of saying the same thing, until Trump turns on the green light. And the green light is lit. God has signaled success. And so I don't think we have much to fear. And if I'm wrong, then what I'm doing right now is misleading innocent people that have the good judgment and the nerve to listen to Jenny's podcast. So I rest my case on that question, Jenny. And so if we have other questions, let her rip, Potato Chip.
Yeah, real quickly, since we are talking about Melania, did that answer your question, Cal? Because I'm going to read
Yes,
another one pertaining to
yes.
Melania.
I would just like to say that I'm eternally grateful to have found both of you for the education I've received from this podcast, but especially from the wonderful work that Field has done in his life for humanity. I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you,
And I'm
Cal,
eternally
for
proud.
thank you, Cal, for
I was
being
just,
a loyal listener and always being here and asking questions. Thank you. Go ahead, Field. And then I'll read this question because since we're talking about Melania, I want to read this question here on the wall. Go ahead, Field.
well, that lady just made me cry because I'm not anything like a hero. I'm just somebody that works for God. And I'm somebody who used to be in the Marine Corps. So if somebody needs to have their ass kicked, I'm more than happy to do it. Uh, while putting my left hand on a Bible. Over to you for the next question, please, Jenny.
Thank you, Field. Thank you, Cal. All right. So pertaining to Melania, this is from Revolution. Could Field elaborate on Melania? I understand she's a Romanov, but lately, especially at the parade, President Trump has put her in the forefront. I wonder if her role is going to be revealed and ramped up here soon. I remember Field saying years ago that Melania was more powerful than her husband and have always been so and this person has always been so curious. Thank you, Field and Jenny, for all you do to put out the truth.
Well, I think that Melania may be more powerful than Trump, but what her power is based on is her honest family history and the fact that she is, by any heterosexual male standard, a beautiful woman who stands by her man, not to invoke a memory of Tammy Wynette, who sang the song Stand By Your Man, but she stands by Donald Trump, and they're about the same height. And she's just so much at peace. You can see it in her face and the way she conducts herself. You know, she knows what she's doing. She knows who she's doing it for, not only her family's legacy, but also for her savior. And I've got immense respect for Melania and Donald Trump. And there's something I know that I really can't publicly expose yet, but it will come in time. But when I was unlawfully arrested, and I had five murder threats on my head. One of them was not very credible because it was my wife Denise's sister, and I use a fake name. I call that sister of my wife Denise, I call her a male name, Jack E. Buttercrack, and that's sort of a allusion to Jenny always saying, "Oh, Field, you crack me up." Well, I just cracked her over the head, not meaning Jenny. I'm meaning the woman in England who is Denise's sister, who put a murder threat on my head that I ran by an attorney in Fort Lauderdale, and that's Broward County Court, and the prosecutor in Plum City. No, excuse me, Pierce County. They both say PC. Pierce County is the county in Wisconsin where I was denied protections of the Constitution. Of course, that'll be recovered. Uh, but these people think they can just harm us. Well, Melania and Donald Trump might be the people that arranged to have 7 police officers arrest me on November 4th of 2019. But when I was arrested, I knew I was 70 years old. That's significant because it's called elder abuse. But when I was arrested, I was looking serious on the outside, but I was smiling on the inside because why would any police force send 7 police officers with guns, badges, sunglasses, and caps, and 5 police cars to arrest a 70-year-old with no record of convictions. I'd never done anything. I probably spit on the sidewalk once, but it wouldn't have been chewing tobacco I was spitting. It would have been saliva. But anyway, my arrest didn't make sense until numerous people with more background in law than me said, Field, it might be that you were put into protective custody, which I believe I was. And so I'll say over to you, Jenny, and we can take another question or however many you want.
Thank you, Field. Yeah, I got a few hands here. So, okay, Mr. Earl, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question.
Thank you, Jenny. Phil, on the Murrah building, I live outside of Oklahoma City, and I remember that day very well. But I also remember watching the news that there were 2 more bombs that were found and were taken care of. So that tells me that that Ryder truck wasn't the only bomb.
I think you're right, and I was aware of that from my research that I've done in the last couple of weeks. And so, that reminds, first of all, thank you for that information. And, God bless you too. I don't want to leave that out. But that reminds me of other acts of evil where the perpetrators didn't have enough explosive power. And one of them, now people are going to wonder, where did that come from? MH17. MH17 was detonated over Donetsk, Ukraine on the 17, that's interesting. Anyway, of July of 2014. And the only reason that attack, even though it looked successful, because it appeared to have around 293 human victims. Well, not really. Those 239 victims who were victimized in MH370 by Serco. And if Prince William doesn't like that, he can get back in line, Palm City, and wait to kiss my ass. But in addition to the Serco victims from MH370, 40 or more, and I don't have the number in my head, and I don't speak from notes. There were 40 Caucasian, and that I'm not racist. I'm not. In fact, I love every race, and some of the greatest influences in my musical history are black singers, because for the longest time, the only solace, S-O-L-A-C-E, they got was they could attend church and they could sing. But back to MH17, there were 40 plus Caucasians that were dressed in winter clothing, even though they were going to the south side of the equator if MH370 had continued on to Kuala Lumpur, but they had insufficient explosives on that aircraft. And who could have put them there? I don't know. I hate to speculate, but Menzies, Menzies, is the contractual provider of on-the-ground service to airliners at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport. And if anybody wants to Google Menzies, Menizes, I think that's it. That's a Israeli corporation, and I'll leave it at that. Sometimes these people that plan evil, they don't have enough explosives, and maybe it's because they don't have enough IQ to even blow their nose. Over to you, Jenny, or the male that asked the question. If he's satisfied, or if he has more to add, either way is fine with me.
Did that answer your question, Earl?
Yeah, he did. Thank you, Jenny, and have a great day. God
Thank
bless.
you. God bless you. Thank you for being here, Earl. All right, Miss Carol H., your mic is unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, Phil.
Hello.
Hi. Kind of nervous asking this question, but I know
Well,
Phil.
don't
Let
be
her rip,
nervous.
potato chip.
I know it. I know you want people to ask questions, but it does get nerve-wracking because we know that a lot of people are listening. But I do trust God, and I know He's got us. So Phil mentioned JFK Jr., which is awesome. But my question is, Does Phil think that possibly JFK Jr. could have been switched out by one of the Onassis boys? That's my question. Thank you.
I don't think so. That's my answer, but that's only my opinion. But how many, and this, I'm going to ask you a question now, young lady. How many children do you think JFK actually had as of the 22nd of November of 1963?
3 children?
That's a very good guess. And the third one you're thinking of was a brother to JFK Jr., and he was reportedly dead. He was reported to have died 2 or 3 days after his natural childbirth from Jacqueline. What's her middle name? Jacqueline, not
Onassis,
Onassis.
Kennedy. Yeah, Kennedy. Yep.
Bouvier. Bouvier.
Oh, Bouvier. Yes, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're not bad. You're wonderful. It's just that you and I and other people have a lot of stuff in our head, and none of it's BS, but sometimes it takes a little bit of concentration to bring it up. But Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy delivered child number 3 up in Massachusetts, and I think it was in the hospital on Otis Air National Guard Base. That doesn't matter. It can be found at Google. But he was reported to have died 2 days later, and that's not true, but it was prudent of them because that allowed them, meaning JFK Sr. and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, that allowed them time to get the younger male moved over to Benghazi, Libya for safekeeping. And now, I didn't get that from JFK Jr.'s little brother, who, by the way, has been in my house on 3 occasions and gave me a very memorable keepsake that I'd like to give back to him, either at a public ceremony in Dallas or if he and his wife ever visit my house again. And they're one of the few people that know they have an open invitation, because people that are that well known sometimes have to be sort of thoughtful about their travels, because there are still a few evil people left in America, but they won't last much longer. Now I've talked myself into the position I frequently get to here, where I forget the question. But go ahead, young lady. Would you repeat the question so I can recage my gyro?
Yeah. Hey, Phil. Okay. So, yes, I love the Kennedys, and I know that most of them are alive, thank God. And I know that their bloodline is protected by God primarily. The
Yeah.
question was about JFK Jr., and I know you're referring to the younger boy that they said had passed away. I'm not sure if you want me to say his name.
You can or I can. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Which was Patrick, correct?
Yes, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy.
Yes. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Yeah. So, yeah, my question was just about JFK Jr. and just to protect him. I know that Jackie did hook up with Onassis after all that stuff went down. So I just didn't know if there was any connection to the Onassis, and were they trying to protect the bloodline as well?
That's a really stimulating thought. That thought hasn't gone from one ear to the other in my head, but I will look for some substantiation of that. But the quickest way to get information is just to ask Jenny's chat room if anybody is articulate on the question of, did the Kennedys arrange to have Jackie marry Onassis? Was that to protect the bloodline? And I do not know the question, but that makes a lot of sense to me as a potential correct statement, because Onassis built his maritime shipping wealth during World War II. But here comes the punchline, where neither the Allies nor the Axis would attack his ships because he was providing fuel to both the Axis and the Allies. And so they really couldn't protect him. So I would think that regardless of his being a billionaire, he was also a brilliant tactician, because if whoever might want to sink the oil of the enemy, or if it's been processed into fuel, if you don't know if it's going to Germany or to the UK US group, are you going to dare to sink the ship knowing it might cut off your own troops? I don't think so. So I think that maybe Onassis was quite a brilliant tactician. That's my answer. Does that square with anything you think, young lady?
Yes, Phil, I think you're right on it. I know there's a lot of truth that's not out yet, and I'll continue doing my research. And I just want to say thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Jenny. You have an awesome show. And I'll let the next person ask the question. Love you guys so much.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, let's see who's next. I believe it's Grace. Go ahead, Grace. Go ahead, Grace. Your mic is unmuted.
Hey, Field. Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much. Field, I just had a quick question about the parade, and if this has already been answered, please skip me. I had to join late because of just a situation with one of my children. But the parade, there's a lot of rumors in the no community, which is us, that it was more than just a parade and a birthday celebration for the Army, that it was returning the republic back to we the people officially by having military occupy, as a foreign entity on our sovereign land and take back what was for we the people. Do you know if there's any truth to that, or is that just a rumor? I would love it if it is true and we have taken back that occupied territory that's been illegally in our country. And I would love it if it was returned back to we the people. But I would love to get your take on that, please. And thank you. And God bless you for all you do. And Jenny, you as well.
Thank you, Grace.
And Grace, just so I understand, because I don't like to misspeak unless I do it on purpose, which I sometimes do to confuse the bad guys, but you're not a bad guy, you're a good girl. So is the property in question what used to be called the District of Columbia?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I think you can broaden that to the entire United States, because we were subject to treason, in that for a lot of years, 154 years or so, we were under the control of the fake royals in England. They had their thumb. They had us as a colony. But as far as the District of Columbia, I think they're going to rename that the District of America. I'm not sure. I say that as an opinion, not a fact. But yes, Donald Trump has basically slugged all the rats in the swamp. And we are now a free nation. We're under constitutional law. And earlier in this show, I think when you might have been dealing with one of your children, I mentioned that there's going to be a legal expert visiting my house in the next 10 days. And now that we have seen an open display that on Donald Trump's birthday, which is also Flag Day, which was the 14th of June, we are officially now under constitutional law. And even under the fake law that we had before, there was a term that fraud vitiates all. And what vitiate, a lot of people don't know what vitiates means, but it means fraud can be a reason to overturn any previous legal statement or legal action And I'm going to try to get several actions overturned. And maybe I'm being vindictive. I don't think so. I think I'm a man of grace and forgiveness. And I think more men and women should be graceful and forgive. But in this case, it's a little hard for me to forgive the fact that we operated for 154 years under the thumb of England, even though I had HAD, past tense. I had an English wife. Her name was Denise Irene Clark. I have a corresponding secretary now that I purged the previous infiltrator. And she's also from England. And yeah, I have a great confidence that Trump and God have reestablished the United States of America. And when I say Trump and God, I really should say Donald Trump and Melania Trump and God. And one of them is from Scotland. One of them is from Slovenia. The one from Scotland is Donald Trump. The one from Slovenia is Melania. And, you know, the United States of America has been long thought of as uh, not a mixing bowl, but, a blending. I don't know what the word is. Jenny might be able to tell me. But it's where people from around the world can come to the United States and feel welcome. And of course, the dummies in the Liberal Party, that's not that they're all dumb, it's just their spokesmen tend to be dumb. Um, the only caveat to that is America should be a pleasant destination for people who want a better life as long as they come here legally. If you come here illegally, that used to work good in the fake Biden era. I'm not sure Biden ever served a day as the president, but he could have, but he didn't have many, nor should he ever have had any. But Jenny, can you remember the name of that mixing bowl or something like that? That's what America has been, where people from all countries were welcome to come here and enhance their life and to enhance our culture and to enhance our population. And one enhancement is my son-in-law, who's he and his wife, which is my daughter, they're coming to take over my 100 acres in my house of 5 bedrooms. And he's a Serbian. And if somebody told me 10 years ago that I'd have a son-in-law from a nation such as Serbia or Slovenia or any other difficult to pronounce and locate country, I'd say not likely. Well, I found out I was wrong. This guy is one of the most wonderful relatives I have, and he's always a welcome addition to my family. Over to you, ma'am, or Jenny, whoever is taking this on forward.
Okay, Field. So you wanted me to give you the name of that bowl, right?
Yeah.
So I just looked it up on the internet here, and it says a concept of mixing bowl or salad bowl describes a society where diverse cultures and ethnicities coexist. So there you go, a salad bowl.
Okay. Well, I hope it doesn't
I'm
have any white onions in it, because that gives us bad breath temporarily. But yeah, okay, we're officially now the salad bowl. And, you know, I like green and black olives both in my salads. But did we answer that lady's question?
Yes, I think we did. And if not, Grace, let me know. Raise your hand. And I'll open your mic. We've got about 5 more questions. You good? You good to take 5 more questions, Field?
Yes, I am, Jenny. Anything for
Okay.
you?
All right. All right. Colorado Carol, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Thank you for doing these podcast. I really appreciate it. And
Of course.
I think that question was melting pot. They used to always call it.
There you go. Salad bowl,
But,
melting pot, you know.
yeah, I'll
Melting
take
pot.
whatever.
Yes,
Melting pot.
it was melting pot, the original. But go ahead. Thank you, Colorado Carol. And have I ever spoken to you on the phone? I think I have.
No, we've not spoken on the phone, but we've talked on these chats, definitely.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah. Go ahead,
my
Colorado.
my question is, and I'm going back to Melania because this has been heavy on my heart. Actually, from the first time when Trump was elected and they were coming down the stairs at Trump
Mhm.
Towers.
Yep.
And what we know about the trafficking and how um prolific it was in the fashion industry and all those different industries. Do you think that Melania was trafficked at one time and Trump rescued her from that? And now I'm getting teary eyed. Sorry.
Don't get
I'm upset.
teary-eyed. No, happy times are around the corner. But yes, I believe that to be true. I think Donald Trump is a man of action and uh, he's a man of God. And if people like there's liberal females, I think they're called feminists, that put their gender ahead of their IQ, and that goes both ways. There's a lot of men who are not too smart. Um, but anyway, no, I believe that very well may be true that Melania, and I said earlier in this show that by any heterosexual male's opinion, she's a beautiful woman. And I've heard it, and I choose to believe that she was either trafficked or she was near to being trafficked, and Donald Trump stepped in and saved her. Uh, that's the way I choose to believe in both Melania and Donald. So you don't have my permission to cry anymore, Colorado Carol. And you're the second lady today and the other one was not in the chat room here, but I had a humanitarian issue arise in my personal life. And I told that lady that she has no permission from me to cry anymore because God will take care of these issues. And, there's a lot of humanitarian effort that's about ready to be launched. And I've already launched one on my own, which means I'm doing something behind the scenes that very few people, maybe just two, know about. Uh, but if somebody's doing something humanitarian, then it's probably okay to keep it under wraps until it reaches the desired um, level. But I want to quote a Bible verse. It's Proverbs 3:28, and I could either Google it right now, or I see my wife's Bible is over by my other chair, but I'll just take a chance. And keep in mind, there's so many different versions of the Bible. I might get this wrong according to your Bible, but I'll get it as close to I can. Proverbs 3:28. If your neighbor comes to you today and says he needs your help, and you have the willingness and the assets to provide for the neighbor, don't tell the neighbor to come back tomorrow. Now, the way that I think about that is, and this is why I'm doing a humanitarian act on my own. When I found out about the legitimate need that this party had, I offered to make the issue go away because I had the assets and I had the willingness to help this party. And my concern was at that time and is today, if I had told that party to come back tomorrow, give me 24 hours to think about it, what would I feel like if that person was so worried that he or she would eliminate themselves overnight? I couldn't run that risk. So I had to open up my purse strings and try to make that person confident that that person's issue would be remedied fairly soon, which my definition of fairly soon is the very moment I find a way to mechanically take care of it. Over to you, whoever you are. I already forgot it. Might have been Colorado Carol.
Yeah, it was. Did that answer your
Oh,
question,
good.
Carol?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, do you guys remember that commercial? I think it was Mr. Clean, and they had the guy, Mr. Clean came in on, he was all white, and he came in on the horse, and he was a knight in white shining armor. And that's that's who I visualize Trump as. He's gonna come in and clean this world up and help us all. And I love his heart, and I love your heart, Bill. Thank you for your time, generous time. And Jenny, you also. Bye bye.
Thank you, Carol.
Bye
Thank
bye,
you
and
for being here.
God bless you, Cece.
I like that. Okay. Let's see. We've got Sunshine, and then after Sunshine, Doug, and then we'll have two more after that. So go ahead, Sunshine. All right, Sunshine, your mic is unmuted. If you want to ask Phil your question, go ahead. All right, Mr. Doug Woodstock, 69. Go ahead. Your mic is unmuted.
Well, thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
And Phil, enjoy your knowledge more than you think. It's unreal. I have a quick question. It refers back to JFK Jr. I think I remember you talking about. I think it was a plane in Washington D.C. never took off, Air Force Two, or was called back to the airport or whatever, and it got its title taken off. Its logo or whatever, and at that time the rumor was Mike Pence was no longer vice president, that JFK Jr. was. I don't know if this is hearsay, but I just wanted to, since I've heard JFK Jr.'s name on, which I'm very, very interested in him coming back to the scene again, hopefully, what your take was on that incident back when in Trump's first administration on Air Force Two.
Yeah, I was well aware of that. There's two Air Force Twos that I'm well aware of. One of them was the the name of the Air Force squadron was 4th SAM. That's 4th SAM. And when it took off on the 4th of July of 2019, after the failed attempt, because the cowards had been exposed, and they could have been exposed by the military white hats, but I know for a fact that they were exposed by me. And I like exposing things so much, I put it right on the internet and let somebody even contemplate suing me for libel. But you can't be sued for libel if you're not lying. You know, if you're telling the truth, there's no legal remedy for the people bringing a case. So on this case, it was an executive sized jet. It was a Gulfstream, and it was used on that day unsuccessfully, that day being the 4th of July of 2019. And Mike Pence was trying to escape. And by the way, ultimately, he got executed in March of this year, 2025. He should have been executed much earlier, according to my version of justice, but I'm not in charge. Just a minute, I got to say hi to Heidi. Hi. You can listen to this. It's interesting. Yeah, Mike Pence got in that executive jet. They took off for Indiana, so that coward named Mike Pence, he and his wife officiated in 82 sodomizations of young boys, followed by the murder of 82 young boys who had been sodomized by Mike Pence. Now he's gotten sodomized by justice. You know, I'm trying not to use any colorful language because I have a lady in my office now who's here to check on my health. How's my health look so far?
Great.
Yeah, that she's really careful with her words. She said my health looks good, so I'm going to send her to the eye doctor as soon as I get done talking. Mike Pence took off with the idea that he could escape justice. Boy, he really fucked that up, didn't he? Anyway, halfway to Indiana, the air traffic controllers, and it could have been Cleveland Center, I'm not sure, but the center said, Air Force 2, you are directed to commence a 180-degree turn and go back to Andrews Joint Forces Base in Clinton, Maryland, and your call sign has been changed to Sam 239. Now, somebody who has a background in aviation and a love for the Bible figured out Sam 239 was a Bible quote from Sam, which could be Second Sam, it could be First Samuel in the Old Testament, but then it could be 23:9. But if maybe Jenny or one of the people in the chat room that are really good with the Bible or they've heard this story before can fill in the blanks. But the bottom line was the call sign got changed from Air Force 2 to Sam 239, which signaled the end of the Mike Pence vice presidency, because when they changed the call sign to Sam 239, that meant unmistakably that that piece of shit was no longer the vice president. And he did get executed in March. And if people want to see proof of that, and I believe it's proof, that's why I speak so freely. But there's a website called realrawnews.com, and they announced recently that he was executed in March of 2025. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does. And once again, you're amazing to this country and to the listeners. They're just unique. And God greatly bless you and Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, sir. And I can't take any credit for any of this stuff because God created me. God gave me a mission. God gave me the ability to appear to do this. Well, the truth is that God's doing it, but he's so humble in spirit that he wants some human on earth to be in a position so that people can think that human's done it. I haven't done anything. God's done it all. Thank you. God
Amen.
bless you. Bye-bye.
Real
Yeah,
quick,
thank you.
Fields. Real quick, Field. How you doing on time? I've got two more questions. I know you said Heidi's there, so can you take these questions or no? Or you got to go?
Oh, I don't have to go.
Okay, I've got.
And she
Okay, so
says,
I've got two more.
she says, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got two more people here. Okay, so let's see, who was it? It's Aaron SV. Go ahead and ask Field your question.
Oh, hon, I didn't have a question. He answered it earlier. I appreciate it. I didn't think I hit my mic. I apologize. God
No
bless you all.
worries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Miss Patty, Costco, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted.
Hi, Field and Jenny. Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say that I don't know when Field came on the podcast scene, but he has been added to my hero list. Whether he thinks he's a hero or not. Anyway, I feel a little sense of connection with him because my dad flew for Northwest Orient Airlines. He retired in 1980. But yeah, I just want to say if you're ever in the Minneapolis area, I would just count it such a privilege to shake your hand. I'm in the Minneapolis area, and I know you're not too far from there, Field. So I have a question and then I have a compliment. So here's the question. And this has just been a curiosity question following Q for, a number of years. How in the world are they taking these people out, arresting them, taking them to Gitmo, executing them? How, and maybe you have no idea either, but what about their family and friends? I just can't figure out how this has been working.
Well, it's been working very well. And I want you to know that my own sister has been executed. I don't know if she was executed in Guantanamo. I don't know if she was executed at Andrews Joint Forces Base in the Washington, D.C. area, specifically Clinton, Maryland. There's also a tribunal site on Diego Garcia, which used to be a super secret military base until I started blabbing all over the internet about MH370. And then there's Greenland. There's tribunals done in Greenland, and some people question that because they can never see the buildings. And I've said it many times. You're looking in the wrong place. It's not on Greenland, it's in Greenland. The tribunals in Greenland are very secure. They're underground. But anyway, go on. It's what else can I do? Did I answer? Oh, wait a minute. Go ahead, Daddy.
Well, no, I don't doubt that it's been happening, and I totally
Yeah.
trust in the plan and what they're doing. It's just do they give their family and friends NDAs or what? Like, that's what I can't kind of wrap my head around.
Well, I'm the brother of one of the people, probably one of the two most evil people I know. And I've never been given any information by the legitimate government. But keep in mind, legitimate government didn't become a household term until Donald Trump announced that he was back. Well, the truth is Donald Trump never left, and the entire Biden administration was a pipe dream. Maybe I should say a wet dream, but I don't like talking like that, so let's go with pipe dream. But I don't need to have somebody from the government, and I love the government now that Donald Trump and Melania are running it. They have a lot of wisdom, they have a lot of heart, and they have the backing of God the Father and Jesus the Son. And I don't expect to ever hear publicly that my sister's been executed, but I can feel it because the world is a kinder place now that she's gone. And if that seems unkind to anybody, I'm a kind guy. I've got numerous pieces of clothing from the Sunshine Sisters in Florida. And on many of those items of clothing, I'm not wearing one today, but I wear one often. In fact, Heidi, my medical advisor, who's here right now judging my wellness, she just chastised me recently for wearing the same hoodie for how many days in a row, Heidi?
Don't know, but it had some food on it.
Oh, yeah, on this sleeve. Yeah. No, I don't know how many days either, but just to exonerate myself, and I'm not making excuses, but I live by myself. I do not have a female within 500 miles that I'm interested in. 500? Nope, let's make it 2,000 miles because it's 2,000 miles to either coast. And, I've had 3 train wrecks, in marriages. And some people said, "What took you so long? You've had 3 marriages. You're a loser." And I said, "No, I'm a bigger loser than you might think because now I've had 4 marriages. But the last one was a gift from God." And her name was Denise Irene Clark Mcconnell. And I've got a monument out there in my yard, and I'm looking at it right now. It's a marble slab with her name, her correct name, all 4 names, And the 4th of September of 1965 till the 30th of December of 2020. And every time I come and go from my house, if I'm driving, and I never walk, because when I was put in jail for 16 months, even though some of it was house arrest, I basically lost 91 pounds, which I've gained about half of it back. And that's where I'm stopping at the range of about 183. Um, but I lost my balance, and I actually fallen 6 times that I know of. And one time, that was the most recent one, I fell face first onto asphalt. And I'm looking back now and thinking maybe I was in shock. Let me ask, is that possible? Yeah. Heidi, my medical advisor, said that is possible. And the reason I thought I was in shock is because somebody said, Field, are you feeling better? You sure took a nasty spill. And I said, how did you know that? And I'll tell you who it was later, Heidi. He said, I was walking right beside you when you went face first into the asphalt. And I said, well, I must have had some type of a medical issue because I don't remember that. Oh, dehydration, Heidi said. And that's quite possible. And as Heidi's my witness, I have a glass of water. It used to be ice water, but it's been here so long the ice has melted. But anyway, Heidi, out of the kindness of her heart, checks in on me a couple times a week. And, I try to do things I can do to help her. And she is not the person that I did a humanitarian event for, although I've done some smaller scale humanitarian events, and I'm going to continue because Heidi saved my life once, and she saved me by hijacking me. She had a sheriff's car, 2 sheriff deputies. She had an ambulance. She had a small army of maybe 8 people advance up my sidewalk and come right through the front door. And let me ask her a question. I want to be truthful. Was I on the floor when you came?
Real quickly,
Go ahead.
Fields.
Go.
Real quickly, because I got to get ready for John Baxter's show. So I don't know if you. I've got to kind of cut this because I've got to.
You don't need to explain. Just turn me off. Thank you.
All right, are you there, Fields?
Yes, I'm
me
here,
now?
but
Yeah,
yes, I can hear you now.
It dropped me. No, I was trying to say I've got to get ready for John. I hate to interrupt. I don't like to do that. It's not what I do. But I do have another show coming up with John Baxter that I've got to get ready for. So, um, I don't know. I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but I got to cut this podcast because I got to get ready for John's.
That's no problem. I've been cut off by some other people, 3 of them to be exact. Yeah, no, it's okay. You can always cut me off. And you know what? You never have to explain yourself. Just turn me off and then send me a text of why you turned me off. Maybe, it is possible I could offend you, but I'm not going to offend you right now. I'm going to say goodbye, God bless you, and thanks for letting me speak.
No, you're good. I don't like to. I don't like to interrupt people. I don't, but because I schedule these podcasts, I do have to prepare for them. So with that, everybody, John Baxter will be on here within the next hour. So I'm gonna go get prepared for that. Join us for John Baxter, anti-aging medbed and Field. Send me the information, and I will send it on over to John and his staff. And you want me to have them contact you, or this individual that you're talking about? So just send me all that
No,
information and I'll make it happen.
I'll do it right now. Thank you. God bless you, Jenny. Bye-bye.
All right. God bless everybody. We'll see you here for John Baxter and then later on Derek Johnson. Later this week, we'll have 107, Alpha Warrior, Silk from the Diamond and Silk Show, and then Dallas from PPN. So with that, everybody, God bless you. Have a great day. Field will be back here next Monday, same time, same place. And if you have a question for them, hopefully you guys can get your questions answered. So again, everybody, God bless you. We'll see you soon. Take care.